Aloha forum attendees. Thanks for having us. Again, my name is Greg Asner. I'm coming to you from the southwest corner of the Big Island from one of our marine stations in a small village called Milali'i. We're joined by 3 of the 13 youth plaintiffs who sued the state government of Hawaii over the threat posed by climate change, reaching an historic settlement, as you just heard, just a few weeks ago to decarbonize the state's transportation system over the next 21 years. Navahine versus Hawaii State Department of Transportation is the world's first youth-led constitutional climate case addressing climate pollution from the transportation sector. The lawsuit argued that the government was violating the state constitution by operating a transportation system that harms the climate and infringes upon the right to a clean and healthy environment. The settlement agreement was signed between the plaintiffs, 13 of them, 3 of who are joining us today, who were represented by our Children's Trust and Earth Justice in the state of Hawaii. A key term of the settlement is that it requires the state government to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions across all transportation modes, including ground transportation and sea and air inter-island transportation, no later than 2045. I served a narrow role as one of the climate science experts on the case, focusing on the impacts of climate change in Hawaii, but really it was the plaintiffs who led the way. And so today I'm honored to introduce 3 of the plaintiffs, Kalalapa, Charlotte, and Kaliko, who have very graciously convened here from different islands across the Hawaiian archipelago to share some of their experiences on climate change in this court case. So I'm gonna just jump right in and turn it over to Kalalapa and ask her for sharing some of her ideas and experiences with climate change and with the court case. Kalalapa.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. My name is Kalalapa Winter. I'm 20 years old and I'm the oldest plaintiff in the Navahine versus Hawaii Department of Transportation case. I am from Ha'ena, Kauai, and Haleiwa, Oahu. I'm currently based on Oahu, and yeah, I've been working on this case for 3 years. Yeah. Greg.
Great, thank you. We'll come back. And Charlotte, just please introduce yourself when you can. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Charlotte. I'm 15 years old and I live in Kailua on the island of Oahu. Yeah.
Thank you. And Kaliko, please.
Aloha, I'm Kaliko. I'm soon to be 14. I'm one of the youngest plaintiffs in this case, and I'm from Maui Komahana, or West Maui.
Great. So let's just take a few minutes now. And during the case, the 3 of you told some incredibly powerful stories about your experiences with climate change in Hawaii and in other places. Can you share some of those experiences with this audience? We'll start with you, Kalalapa.
Yeah, of course. So I was involved in the case for a couple of reasons. The number one being where I'm from, Ha'ena in Kauai, experienced what is now referred to as the first ever climate-induced disaster in Hawaii, which was 55 inches of rain, or a little bit over 1.5 meters of rain in less than 24 hours, which, as you can imagine, our community is very small, so it decimated our community, and we have spent years rebuilding and restoring it. I'm also a fisherwoman. I grew up fishing with my community. I'm from a fishery community, much like Milali'i, and I rely very heavily on our reef ecosystem, as many others do in my community. So sea level or sea temperature rise has really affected our coral reefs, which in turn has affected the limu, or the seaweed that lives on the coral reefs, and that in turn affects all of our food resources. And I'm also involved for a couple of other reasons involving sea level rise and washing away parts of our islands.
Thank you very much. Charlotte, what's on your mind when it comes to your experiences with climate change in Hawaii or anywhere you've been?
Okay, hi again, I'm Charlotte. I moved to Hawaii 7 years ago, and So I joined this case when I was 12, around 3 years ago. I joined because I wanted to make a substantial difference in our future generations' lives. I'd done small things in the past, such as going to climate marches and giving presentations to encourage my local community association to abolish single-use plastic in local events, but I felt that I could do more. When I first heard about the case, I thought, here's my chance to do something big that will have a greater impact than what I could do on my own. I had already witnessed the impact climate change could have in my community. My experiences didn't just start in Hawaii. However, prior to living in Hawaii, I lived in Sydney, Australia, for the first 8 years of my life. When I lived in Australia, my family and I frequently experienced drastic climate change related events such as droughts and bushfires. I remember one time when the bushfires were so bad and the air was so dense with smoke that we couldn't see past about 100 feet across the valley that our house looked over. I also remember the time that my mother had to put my baby sister and I in a cold bath because it was over 100 degrees for 3 days straight and we had no air conditioning. These episodes were at times terrifying and very detrimental to countless people's health across Australia. After moving to Hawaii, it quickly became clear that these kind of things would keep occurring. For example, I enjoy spending time at the beach and in the water at Lanikai. However, after massive downpours of rain, the nearby canal floods over and large brown water events occur, meaning the sewage treatment plants are overwhelmed and sewage leaks into the ocean, so we can't swim for up to a week after. These events sometimes cancel my team's outrigger canoe paddling practices to avoid sickness and getting infections, such as life-threatening staph infections, which my mother and family friends have had. After experiencing all of this, I knew that I had to do something to prevent these things from getting worse. This case has been a long journey, and I'm overjoyed over the impact we have finally made. Because of the settlement, we will start implementing changes to the Hawaii Department of Transportation, including the creation of a youth council, where youth from around Hawaii will be able to give feedback and bring up climate-related issues from their communities. I'm very grateful the government listened to our concerns and worked with us instead of against us. Now that our case has been settled, I hope that it shows youth all around the world that they too can make an impact, no matter their age. Because as the generations who will be inheriting the earth, it is our job to stand up for it. Thank you.
Awesome, powerful, thank you. Kaliko, you have a story to tell. I've heard it a few times and it still gives me, I think they call it goosebumps on the mainland. Here we call it chicken skin, but go ahead and please share your experiences with climate change.
Aloha, everyone. I joined this case originally because my house was washed away in a flood caused by Hurricane Olivia, which was a natural disaster made worse by climate change. And I didn't want another kid to have to experience that. I mean, it was very traumatic, and I still have PTSD to this day. And I thought this case was one way I could help prevent climate change from getting worse. And recently, last August, the wildfires took my dad's house in the Lahaina fire. And now my family lives all over the place. We're all displaced. And it's another event that's motivated me to keep going with this case and like shows me that all these events are happening really fast. And I can physically see the effects of climate change. I'm very involved with my community. So I go diving, fishing, and our beaches are shrinking. They are eroding very fast. I can see the detrimental effects of droughts in our kalo farming community. And, you know, I originally joined this case because I didn't want another kid to have to experience what I have. But now that I've lost my house twice, I realized that it's not only for other people I'm trying to protect, but for me and my family as well, because I've experienced these events twice and it's crazy. So yeah, I joined this case because I didn't want another kid to have to experience that, and I don't want myself to experience that too.
I'm sure the audience is locked onto the three of you and your stories, as I was as a supporting scientist. Let's talk about the outcome of the case and where you three think the case and your relationship with the state of Hawaii and its Department of Transportation goes next. Kalalapa, do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I would like to just, for anyone who wasn't following the case, So our case was against the Hawaii Department of Transportation, along with the Hawaii Department of Transportation, our governor, and the head of the Hawaii Department of Transportation. And throughout the course of the past 3 years that we've been working on the case, the state had spent a total of $3.5 million, taxpayer dollars, state dollars, paying lawyers who are out of state to fight against a bunch of kids, because I'm 20 years old. When I started the case, I was 18, or when we filed the case, I was 18. And all of the other plaintiffs are much younger than me. And as you can imagine, being a youth anywhere, you don't have a whole lot of power before you turn 18. And it was really disheartening to see the people who were supposed to be taking care of us spending a lot of money fighting against us for a very long time. We've now reached a settlement, which has been historic and amazing. But I think it took a lot for us to get there. And something that I'm really excited for all of my fellow plaintiffs to be moving forward with is that ability to work with the government and work with the higher power, or those who are in a higher position than us, to create life-sustaining and long-lasting change for future generations. Another reason this case is really important to me is because a lot of the plaintiffs on this case are Native Hawaiian, like me. And I think that in the Hawaiian community and in a lot of Indigenous communities and a lot of POC communities in general, for understandable reasons, there is a lot of distrust with the US government, which is something I know and I've seen and experienced firsthand, and I think it's completely valid. But I also believe that as Indigenous people, we have a right to our land, and we have a right to our future generations being in the land of our ancestors. So it's been really inspiring to work with so many amazing young Hawaiian youth and other people who are really pushing forward the ability for all of us to have healthy future generations. As a Native Hawaiian, it means a lot to me, because I think our fight is not only for us, like Kaliko was saying, but also for our future generations, just as our ancestors fought for our right to exist now.
Thank you. Charlotte, Kaliko, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm also really I'm really happy with the settlement agreement, and I think that there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be implemented that's going to be very helpful for the whole of Hawaii, such as the youth council, and yeah, I think that it's going to be great.
Let's chat about the youth council. How do you think that's going to work over the next few years? It's hard to predict 21 years, which I think is what the settlement is. It's going to function for 21 years, but what do you think will happen in these first few years?
Well, I think obviously there'll be some trial and error, but I'm really happy with the youth council because I feel like it'll give youth from all around Hawaii to voice what their communities are experiencing, not just people who are never mind. I think it'll be good to hear a variety of things that are happening around Hawaii and not just kind of mainstream problems, and for the diversity that it'll bring.
Kala, I see you raise your hand.
So part of our settlement, there were a lot of agreements that went into place. So as Greg and Charlotte are saying, one of them is that there will be a youth council. So we have a couple of our youth plaintiffs who are joining the youth council. And as Greg was saying, our case is not technically over. We are in a living case with the state for about 21-ish years. So we will all be very full-grown adults by then. But for now, a lot of our plaintiffs are able to join this youth council, but it's actually going to be open to the whole of Hawaii, as Charlotte was saying. And they're going to be working directly with government officials, telling them what our communities need, what our keiki, what our OPO, what our youth are calling for, the issues that we're experiencing in our homes. For example, like me and Kaliko, we both rely very heavily on the land when it comes to our way of life. So like what our fishery communities need, what our farmers need, how climate change is affecting us day to day, because all of these things that we've experienced our whole lives, but things are still happening now, right? So it's going to be really awesome moving forward. I'm not going to be part of the youth council, but I believe these two amazing young women will be, so I have a lot of hope.
Thank you. Kaliko, any thoughts?
About the youth council.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's really amazing that we have that opportunity to give them direct insight, because these people, they're not in our community every day. They don't directly see the effects of climate change. So I feel like from the youth, the future of this land, it is really important that we have that opportunity to have a seat at our table of our future.
Perfectly said. I just want to add as well, like I mentioned earlier, I played a role along with about 9 or so other scientists, providing expert testimony to put numbers to the stories that these plaintiffs were telling to the court. Really, the plaintiffs led the entire process in every way, along with the legal team that supported them. The science in this case, and I strongly believe the best use of the science is providing quantitative, the kind of numbers that can withstand the process of trial. And so this is a new area for me as well. As my career has unfolded over these decades, I heard the previous speaker talk about this. I do encourage the scientists to step out of their comfort zone and put yourself in these kinds of really impactful areas. This is far more impactful than all of the academic processes I've been involved in over the years, which have been many. So I just wanted to add that for the audience, and thank you all for the time. Thank you, Kalalapa, Charlotte, Kaliko. And if there's time for a question for any of these young ladies, let's have them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're imagining applause.
I think I'm looking for a burning question, but we're a little bit behind. Do we have a burning question, though? I would love it. I mean, this has been incredible to hear about the Youth Council, the ongoing involvement, the impact of the case, and what that's really going to look like. And thank you. Thank you so much. I'm looking. Oh, yes, one. Will the Youth Council be involved in the ongoing monitoring of the actions to limit greenhouse gas emissions pursuant to the agreement?
So it's my understanding that, so Greg was one of our experts. We had a lot of experts on our team, but now using all of the expert science that we had gathered within our case, the state now has to take all of that into account when moving forward and looking at the greenhouse gas emissions for the next 21 years. So the Youth Council is going to be playing like a very sort of community-based approach, but they will be seeing the actual numbers and the stats that are supposed to be going for the next 21 years, just to keep us updated. And if for whatever reason the state violated what our settlement is an agreement of, we would go back into the courts.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Greg. Thank you all.